what I need to specify, I mean a family-run restaurant.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's corporate and it's not really there.
Yeah.
Everybody can't wait to leave. But when it's a family-run restaurant and everybody's kind of going for the common purpose, then that happened at Lulu's. Now, this is not the current Lulu's. This is the old one that was on the river. It was an all-open restaurant, open to the open air, tiki bar, outside deck seating on the river. People pulled up in their boats most of the time. They had live music and beautiful sunsets. It was a great place to work.
Yeah. Now it's the Jimmy Buffett experience.
Yeah. Then that was what led me to leave Lulu's. When we moved to Lulu's, we went to a skeleton crew in the wintertime, and I was there for over 2 years. You know, I guess from a mixology standpoint, which I guess this is more about, it was about margaritas.
Yeah.
You know, rum runners, blue drinks, any of that goofy stuff that, you know, people associate with beach lifestyle.
Yeah.
Corona with lime, margaritas, you know, which, you know, yet again, whatever bar and your concept's a big part. So, you know, that became upgraded with more frozen drink mixes and things. You know, we made margaritas for lots of people. I mean, it was high volume, constantly going. You rarely had time to even scratch your nose.
Yeah.
And then we moved to the beach. In the old place, we had a lot of regulars, really cool place. Like I said, you would have a doctor, a lawyer, a mechanic, a plumber, and some unemployed musician all sitting together talking as equals at this outside crappy bar, which I loved that. You know, that's the kind of aspect of it I wanted to be immersed in. Because it also, that back then I used to still write short stories and things, you know, and that, you know, it gives you a lot of ideas.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we moved down to the beach. Lucy started to date Mac McAleer of Krispy Kreme Donuts, local Mobile family. Very well-off family, very business-minded. He realized that there was a brand, and that's why people came to Lulu's, because the food was atrocious. It was terrible. People would wait an hour for a hockey puck of a hamburger sometimes, and they would be happy because they were drinking, having a good time with music. So he realized the gold mine potential here, and he bought the old Southern Fish Company on the canal down there.
Yeah.
We went down there, we gutted it, we ripped it open, we turned it into a huge tourist monstrosity.
Yeah.
I went to work there and opened up as a trainer, and we did $39,000 our opening day in revenue. People were on 4-hour waits. It was insane.
Yeah.
Just trying to keep that staff held together through that was enough. But this lasted for 3 or 4 months, I guess, and it just went completely corporate, different from the family-run restaurant to where you couldn't even talk to Lucy anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and I just said this isn't for me. So that's when I went back to contracting for a while.
Yeah.
And that's when I got out of the bar business at the beginning.
Yeah. But did that, I guess, was it that experience that started turning you on to the idea of, or I guess, the hobby of mixing drinks and getting into more of the knowledge about it?
Yeah, as I started to play with flavors and come up with wintertime drinks and started to play with margaritas and see how can I improve this, what makes it better. I realized potential for something there, which I come from a family of chefs and cooks.
Yeah.
But I never really wanted to follow that path. I liked being in the front of the house and being able to interact with customers, and I found bartending gave me the best of both worlds when it comes to mixology. Because, yeah, you know, Lulu's started that because you're developing a product, you're producing the product, then you're selling the product, and then you're dealing with the customer service aspect of it. So on a micro scale, it's sales at its best, I guess. But yeah, that's where it all started, I guess, was just trying to see how to build a better margarita.
How did it advance from there?
Well, like I said, I got out of it for a while, went back to contracting and all, and kind of did it as a hobby around the house. Learned things from other friends that had moved off, started talking to them, started traveling a little bit for a while, and seeing other friends that were mixing drinks at other bars, and just kind of picking up what was going on around the country.
Yeah. And
then reading about it in publications like Imbibe magazine and things like that, and seeing, hey, there's real potential here. You know, bartending's coming out of its dark ages.
Yeah.
And then guys like Dushan Zarik with Employees Only Bar up in New York. These were some of the guys that really started this reemergence of the cocktail in our present culture. Because as we all know, you know, in the 90s and early 2000, the martini bar was the craze. And it was all pre-mixes. It was all how much of this syrupy crap can you dump in a glass and make a pink drink that tastes wonderful, but it's full of additives and cornstarch, and it's like using I guess to me it's like a chef using a microwave in frozen food.
Yeah. Thank you, Sex and the City.
Yeah.
Nightmare.
Well, now, and the Cosmopolitan certainly has its place. That is actually a Prohibition cocktail. The only problem was people using triple sec and Rose's lime juice. So those kind of products there bastardized that drink, just like a gimlet for so long. And other drinks that got lost to obscurity, the Aviation, for example, is another one, because Creme de Valette, they started using blue dyes. So it just got generic. Another good example, the Hurricane. Of course, the Mai Tai. Mai Tai is probably the best example of and the Margarita, of course, with the pre-made sour mix. But the Mai Tai is probably the best example of basically them just mixing rum and fruit punch and calling it Mai Tais at resorts all over the country. So, it was guys like Dushan Zarik and Jason Cosmos and bartenders like that brought this reemergence. And I saw that happening in these other places. And I remember in college, a lot of girls would always like to go to the Double Olive, which was the martini bar. You remember that craze when the Bubble Lounge and the Martini Bar the Double Olive were the martini bars. And I start looking at their drink menus and I'm saying, this is, so elementary what they're making here. They're just using flavors that are specifically designed to taste like that to produce these products, and people like them. So, maybe something will take off with this, meantime, with the Prohibition era cocktails, the vintage cocktails that were going on up in New York. Then, of course, Portland, the two converged. And then danced around Alabama until we started making these drinks at the bar, and a few people in Birmingham.
When did that start to translate? Were you able to start to translate that into your professional life? Were you doing when you worked at Hurricane Brewing? Were you able to do?
Well, when I came to the brew pub, I guess another aspect to me getting into it was learning about beer in depth, learning how to brew beer, learning the history of beers. And I would say that was a big catalyst to leading me to research drinks and, kind of figure out where that was going, because the micro beer movement, to me, signified a huge change in American drinking culture. And especially it's something that Americans were now producing and they could be proud of. I mean, you saw what we dealt with wine. It took forever to gain any kind of respect as Americans making wine. Thank God we had our whiskeys and our bourbons, which we've always done the best. As far as American whiskeys. But the microbrew movement was something anybody could do in their garage they could be proud of. And that was another thing at the brew pub. Guys came in all the time. Well, start learning how to make beer. That's essentially the start of whiskey. Whiskey's made from beer. We start looking at the different grains and everything that's going into it, and the complexity of these different beer recipes, and then actually selling them to people, and people, getting that first eureka, that look, I've never had a Shores beer. I've never had an Abbey Ale. Neptune, stop it. I've never had a good IPA, and then back when the place had good beer, people really jumping on that. So I'm looking at all these spirits that were behind us in this terrible Hurricane menu that the owners had put together. You probably remember it. And I start talking to customers, and women come in with their men, for example, and they want a Cosmopolitan. And instead of using the triple sec and the Rose's lime, I'd squeeze out some fresh lime juice for them and use Cointreau, and just make that drink. And just the acclaim, them saying, this is the best Cosmo I've ever had, just from changing those two components to upgrade them, had me start thinking, well, maybe this bar is capable of a little mixology. So then, incorporating things like old fashions and things that you can make behind almost any bar. When people would ask for them. Now, it was such a high volume thing, and what we did was sold beer and wine mostly, so why make it more difficult? But when you have those slow nights, the night in the bar when you got a few regulars and you get to make a drink and say, hey, try this. And then something clicks, or it doesn't, 7 out of 10 times it doesn't work, but there's that 3 out of 10 times usually that you make a great cocktail and people, really respond to it. So, I don't know, it's fun.
So from the brew pub you moved on to... it was the
bum bum bum.
The Cortland's debacle.
Yeah, the Cortland's experience. But what I did gain from Cortland's was